Our next inductee listen to me closely, played basketball here and went to Portsmouth Junior College. He went on to a storied career with the St. Louis Cardinals. If you don't know your sport, St. Louis Cardinals, the baseball team, he played basketball here. The reason he didn't play baseball here is because we didn't offer baseball as a sport at Portsmouth Junior College at the time that he was here. I walked up to him before the induction and I said, Hal, it's probably not a good time for me to tell you what I'm about to tell you. He said, what's that? I said, well, I may not need to tell you what my daughter's name is. He thought for a minute and I said, well, she's named after a baseball stadium. And if you're familiar with athletics or with professional baseball, the Chicago Cubs' home field is Wrigley Field. Well, he happened to have a storied career with the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cubs and Cardinals are big rivals. So I wanted to make sure I got that cleared in the air before we got up here, that I was a true Cubs fan and he was a diehard Cardinals fan. I know because he not only played with the Cardinals, but he later coached in the minor league program. He also was a scout for the Cardinals for years as well. Known in this area as the Barley Darling, I'd like to introduce our next inductee, Mr. Hal Smith.
Thank you, Dustin. When Dustin called me and told me that I'd been selected to be inducted into the Hall of Fame here at the university, I thought it was a prank call. And I said, surely you don't mean me. And he did. He really meant me. So I'm so thankful, and this is quite an honor, and I'll remember it forever. And I got to introduce one guy. My favorite author. I don't know if you know this fellow or not, but his name is Billy Higgins. A great author. You know, when I think back to when we started the junior college over when it was over at the high school, that was many, many years ago. And we had a basketball team, but we didn't have a baseball team. Now, the basketball team consisted of 5 players by the name of Smith. And of course, the coach's name was Jones, Frank Jones. And we didn't go on any long winning streaks like Alyssa. I think we broke that the first night we played. We got beat the first night, so we wouldn't have to go all that year thinking about losing. You know, we took care of that early. But anyway, one of the players on our team that was a non-Smith was Shelby Regan. Now, I know you folks know Shelby. And Shelby chose to get smart and stay in the education business, and I went out and played ball. So, but Shelby was a baseball player too. We played down at the boys' club, and I was lucky enough to get selected by the St. Louis Cardinals. And that was really my boyhood dream, to play professional baseball and to play in the big leagues with the St. Louis Cardinals. Well, I finally got to do that, and one of my heroes was Stan Music. And I got to play on the same team with Stan, which was quite an honor. And I remember back then, players, when you joined the team, you had to stay with that team until they traded you, released you, or you died. Back then they didn't have the 1-year contracts. So when it came time to sign the contracts, they'd call Stan down to the brewery. The Cardinals were owned by the Anheuser-Busch, so they'd bring him down, take him up to the penthouse, and invite the press, the radio, everybody you could think of in there. It was almost like a holiday. And then the next morning, you'd see big headlines in the paper that said, musical signs for $100,000, you know. It'd be on the TV and the radio and all that. when it came time for me to come down and sign the contract, they invited me down to the ballpark. And Frank Lane was the general manager. He called me in his office, and there were just the two of us in there. And he closed the door. And after he agreed to what he was going to sign me for, he said, "Now, Smitty, we won't tell anybody about this. We'll just keep it a secret. It'll just be between you and me." And I said, "Mr. Lane, don't worry about me telling it. I'm as ashamed of it as you are." But anyway, we had a lot of fun. But Frank Lane, he's one guy that he even traded managers one year. He was a guy like that. But anyway, I got to play in St. Louis. I got to realize my boyhood dream. And the thing about it is, we had to work during the off season. We didn't make enough money to make it all through the year, so we had to work during the off season. And I didn't mind work. It was so hard to find a job for that short of time, for that length of time. So my older brother came up with this idea about maybe going into the songwriting business. So I thought, well, we'll try that. So one of our first songs, my dad had a grocery store out in Barley where the older folks would come in on weekends and play checkers or play dominoes or something like that. And the guys that chewed tobacco would have to sit outside on the bench out there, and they'd sit out there and grill and they'd spit. So our first song was called "Sitting, Spitting, and Whipping." And then our next song was called "Pretty Near But Not Plumb." That was a song kind of the story of my life. Like the last line in the song goes, "All my life I've almost made it, pretty near but not plumb." But our best seller, and you're not going to believe this, but our best seller was called "A Churn Full of Chipmunks and a Belly Full of You." And just in the state of Arkansas alone, we sold 12 copies. The rest of them just didn't seem to catch on. But that song became one of the favorites of our trainer. We had our trainer in St. Louis. He had a record player in his training room. And after we would win a game, after every game that we won, he'd play that record as the players were coming into the clubhouse. And I can't swear to this, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I really think some of those players hoped we'd lose so we wouldn't have to listen to that song. But I've been pretty fortunate. I got to play, I already told you about Stan Musial. I got to play alongside him, and I got to play alongside Red Shandy, Bob Gibson. And one of my favorite, it became my best friend, was Vinegar Ben Mizell. And we first met in Albany, Georgia in 1949. He signed out of high school. He's a big, tall left-hander, about 6'4", 6'5", and had a great arm. I mean, he could throw right through that wall there. But he had a problem. He couldn't hit that wall. And the manager would take him out and work with him every day. And about a week later, we had a game up in Americus, Georgia. And we were behind about 15-2, which was a pretty close game for us. And he said, he thought, man, this would be a great time to let Vinegar get his feet wet. So he sent him down to the bullpen, and the fence around the ballpark in Americus was made out of sheet iron. So when Mizell goes down there and starts to throw, every time he threw the ball, it hit that fence. And it really made a noise. It sounded like a mule kicking, you know. And I know the players on the other team were saying, surely they're not going to put this guy in there and kill something, you know. So, sure enough, he put him in there. And he walked out on the mound, and I told him he's left-handed. And instead of adjusting his cap with his left hand, he did it with his glove hand. He put it up there and screwing it on, you know. And when he got through, the bill was sticking out like this. So I got down to give him a sign, and I couldn't tell if he was taking the sign from here to third base. But anyway, I got to thinking he's only got one pitch. Anyway. So anyway, hit that first pitch. I told you the manager had been looking and trying to get him to throw where he's looking. Well, when he went into his delivery, he leaned so far back that you lose sight of the upper part of his body. The batter couldn't see it, I couldn't see it, and he's looking at about this angle. And that's exactly where he threw it. It didn't even come close. So, and I called time, and I went out to the mound, and I said, Vinegar, are you nervous? I was scared to death. And he said, no, you go on back to the pitch and I'll do the pitch. I got to thinking about that. So then I went back to my position, and as I did, I looked up in the stands, and some of the fans were hiding behind their seats. And I finally realized, after all that time, that I was in the safest spot in the ballpark. They didn't come close to me all night. But anyway, like I said, I've been very fortunate. I got to realize a boyhood dream of playing baseball in the big leagues, playing against guys like Jackie Robinson, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle, Ted Williams, and I really feel very fortunate that I got to do that, because not a lot of people do. And so then, again, I think back to when I went to junior college here. Shelby and I played baseball down at the boys club, and that's how I got scouted by the St. Louis Cardinals. But anyway, I was just so fortunate to get there, and I told you, Shelby wanted to get smart. He went ahead and got smart, came out here and did all this stuff, and it's an honor tonight to be inducted at home with Shelby. He was here last year, but it's an honor for me to be joining that same group. And I got to tell you about Mr. Coach. But anyway, we got after I came back, after I moved back to Arkansas about 10 years ago, we got to see each other quite often because Jacob and Bradley played baseball and basketball together, and we'd get out there and watch them. And that's how I got to know him. And I got to tell you something. There's not a better guy in the world than this guy right here and his family, Darren and all the rest. And it's been an honor tonight, too, to be inducted along with Mr. White. Thank you all very much.